Hello everyone, welcome back to another video here on An Cluiche with me, Seamus, Brady, your host. And in this video, I'm going to give my personal and Luke's personal Cluiche Team of the Year. So this is our All-Stars for the year of 2023, who we think went above and beyond the call of duty in 2023. And the first thing that you have to state here is that it is difficult to pick a team that is completely fair. When you look at it, that this season has been so different in that it's been a much longer season. It's been like you had the group stages, the provincial championships. You had also league performances that I think you kind of take into account as well now. The fact that like league has a direct impact on the championship. Like teams ended up in the Tailteann Cup based off of their performances in the league. Then we had the provincial championships, the group stages, and then the knockout stages from then on. So obviously, when you're thinking about the bulk of the All-Stars, you immediately think back to the Final Four. You immediately think back to the All-Ireland Final. And those are the games that you have to take into account the most. The players, I believe, that the football team of the year should be the players that had the biggest impact on the football championship in 2023. Not even just the best performances, but as in the people that without them, the championship would look a hell of a lot different. I think those are the people that probably should get into the team of the year. So here is what me and myself and Luke have agreed on as our personal team of the year. So starting, we're going to move into the goalkeepers. So before the goalkeepers, let's do manager. Let's get that one out of the way. So there's three options that I'm looking at straight away here. And I'm going to try the first one out, Davy Burke with Roscommon. Now, this is more just for a whole year candidate now, because Davy Burke came in, had never really had a senior manager's job before, came into the Roscommon job. Everybody expected them to get relegated from Division 1. They had a fantastic start to that season. And look, they had highlights throughout the year. They had, victories over Mayo in the Connacht Championship. The draw with Dublin and Croke Park was another highlight of the year. And finishing third in Division 1 was a fantastic achievement. Do I think he's manager of the year? No. But I think he does deserve a shout because I think he did a fantastic job. Now, a very good shout for manager of the year is Vincent Corey from Monaghan. Vinny Corey, fantastic job. His first year in the job as Monaghan boss. And I mean, they'd come off the back of Seamus Banty McEnany being in charge. They were way off the pace last year. Vinny Corey came into a job where initially people didn't think he'd be the right fit. Initially, people were very skeptical of how he would get on as Monaghan boss. In the end, he absolutely proved everybody wrong. He was fantastic with Monaghan. He kept them up in Division 1 once again. Then he went into the Ulster Championship with them, had a cracking victory over Tyrone in the Ulster quarter-final, which, that O'Hanlon goal, that Ryan O'Toole goal, absolutely thrilling stuff. Look, they got beaten by a fantastic Derry team in the Ulster semi-final. Then they went into the qualifiers and they fought their way into the All-Ireland group stages. They made it into the All-Ireland group stages and then picked up, the draw against Derry and a crucial victory against Clare to move out of the group stages into the preliminary quarterfinals against Kildare. And that last-minute point from Conor McCarthy put them into the All-Ireland quarterfinals, where they then beat Armagh on penalties and put up a hell of a showing against Dublin in the All-Ireland semi-final. The way that Corey has been able to get the best out of the likes of Conor McManus, Darren Hughes, Carl O'Connell, even at the age that they are, I know that comes down to them as well, but he has galvanised that Monaghan squad. No doubt about it, he's galvanised that Monaghan team, and I think he deserves the utmost credit for it. However, I am going to give manager of the year to Dessie Farrell, Dublin boss, and I think it's like, you have to think about it here. All's well that ends well. And there were stages of the year where I really did think, what is going on with this Dublin team? And particularly the Roscommon game was one where I was in Croke Park watching it and I was thinking, this is a joke. I don't know what we're doing. We don't look like we know what we're doing. We're playing the ball around for ages. We're not attacking teams. The way Dublin timed their run was brilliant. Looking back in hindsight, you got the Mayo victory was absolutely unbelievable. Promoted from Division 2 as champions, Leinster champions, cleaned out Mayo in the quarter-final, held our nerve very, very well against Monaghan when they had us rattled for a stage in the semi-final, and then the victory over Kerry in the final was brilliant. It's just the calmness that he brought to it when, for example, Kerry had Dublin on the ropes at stages in that final. Twice they were 3 points ahead. And this is what I'm talking about when I'm saying impact on the championship. Dessie Farrell managed that situation extremely well. He played his cards extremely well. When he brought on Jack McCaffrey, when he brought on Niall Scully, he made key decisions like that. So just because of that, I am going to go with Dessie Farrell as my manager of the year. And like, this is coming from someone who in the past I've called for Dessie to go. I said I thought he should have been replaced by Declan Darcy, particularly at the end of 2021 when we got knocked out and all the players had left the panel. Like Mannion had gone, McCaffrey had gone, Cluxton had gone, Eric Lowndes had gone. And I was thinking, right, we need to get these players back in, and the only way we're going to get them back in is to bring in Declan Darcy. But Dessie Farrell getting those lads back was huge for the season, and the way he's managed out Dublin's year has been brilliant, making big decisions, like bringing back Stephen Cluxton. That wasn't particularly overall popular at the time. A lot of people felt David O'Hanlon was hard done by. So I think all in all, all's well that ends well. And Dessie Farrell for me is my manager of the year 2023. Now let's move into the team itself. So goalkeeper, I am going to go with. I'm going to list out the nominations first, and then I'm going to give my final one because I have my team in front of me. So goalkeeper, a nominee, Rory Beggan. These are special mentions. Rory Beggan, fantastic year from him. Kicked over a few vital frees against Dublin in the All-Ireland semi-final. Thought he played extremely well. So he's definitely a shout for me. Another shout for goalkeeper of the year, Oran Lynch from Derry. I thought very, very good, particularly in the penalty shootout against Armagh. Like pulled off some unbelievable saves in that penalty shootout. And then also popped forward multiple times throughout the championship to score points. And I think he's gone under the radar as a potential All-Star nominee. I think Oran Lynch was brilliant. Stephen Cluxton as well from Dublin, I think is a definite shout. Like, this is a guy who hasn't played. He hasn't played since 2020 before this season. He comes back in and it's like no time has passed. And he's that good that people have just accepted that that's how good Stephen Cluxton is. Like, look at it on paper. He hadn't played a match since the All-Ireland football final against Mayo in 2020 for Dublin. Comes back in and looks like no time at all has gone by. He steps up, slots over two frees in the All-Ireland final against Kerry when we haven't seen him take a free in so long. His kickouts were perfect against Kerry. Everything was so good about him. Made a fantastic save, particularly against Kildare in the All-Ireland group stages. Fantastic save. He has been magnificent, and getting him back in has been, in the end, the right call. So he definitely is a shout. But my goalkeeper of the year, personally, I'm going to go with Shane Ryan from Kerry. And this is we're talking about impact on the championship here. Impact on the championship. I think Shane Ryan was magnificent because if he doesn't make that save from Gareth McKinless against Derry in the All-Ireland semi-final, I think Derry would have made the All-Ireland final, and I think Kerry would have been knocked out at the semi-final stage. My personal opinion. That save was magnificent. He scored a great point as well. Probably a foul on Shane William, but he still slotted the ball over really, really well. And just all throughout the championship was a cool head between the sticks. Very, very safe hands in the goal for Kerry. His kickouts were very good. And he's very comfortable moving out the field now. I think he's become the full package, a great goalkeeper. So for me, goalkeeper, I'm saying Shane Ryan. Now, moving into the defence, we're going to start with the full back line. I'm going to throw out some honourable mentions of players that ultimately I didn't go for in the end. First one I'm going to throw up is actually the guy that I think should get Young Footballer of the Year for 2023. It's Owen McAvoy from Derry. Fantastic year for this guy. Came out of nowhere during the league. Absolutely brilliant. And for him, like, there's a moment that just shows us confidence in the semi-final against Kerry. He had the ball. He pointed at Shane McGuigan to make a run. And again, then he gave it to him. He is a phenomenal defender, and he will definitely have that fullback position locked down for Derry for as long as he wants, really. He's a magnificent talent. And yeah, I think he should get Young Footballer of the Year, but I just think the players that I put in my fullback line just had a little bit of a more influence on the year. Another harsh one to miss out for me is Jason Foley from Kerry. I haven't put him in this year. I do think he had a good year. I definitely had him in my team before the final, but Michael Fitzsimons' performance, I just had to put Mick Fitz in. So Jason Foley was the one to lose out, unfortunately. Great defender. Absolutely towering figure at fullback, but as I said, I just shaded it towards the other players. So the three that I've gone with in my fullback line, the first man in, I've gone with Michael Fitzsimons from Dublin. As I was saying, Absolutely unbelievable year from Michael Fitzsimons. For a 35-year-old to do the job that he did on David Clifford in that All-Ireland final was absolutely incredible. And I genuinely was worried that Fitzsimons wouldn't have the legs that he used to have, and he wouldn't be able to keep up with David Clifford, and he wouldn't be able to do these things. He did his job as well as I've seen a defender do his job this year. This was David Clifford who just destroyed Chrissy McCaig in the All-Ireland semi-final. So, yeah, Mick Fitz straight in there for me, no-brainer. Alongside him, right cornerback, I've put Conor McCluskey from Derry. Fantastic year for this guy. Outstanding against Kerry in the All-Ireland semi-final. And then you think about his goal against Monaghan in the Ulster semi-final. He also showed the attacking side of his game. A brilliant cornerback. Has it all. Like, he can attack. He's very, very quick, very tenacious, very tough defender to mark. I would hate to be marked by McCluskey because he's got that pace that if you get past him, he just gets back in front of you. Magnificent defender. He goes in at right cornerback for me. Left cornerback, then I've gone with Kerry's Tom O'Sullivan. Fantastic year for this guy. Again, one of the best in the business going forward and defending. And you think of the form that Cormac Costello is in coming into the All-Ireland final, 100% shot conversion rate, absolutely outrageous against Monaghan in the semi-final. Tom O'Sullivan did a great job on him. And that's what Tom O'Sullivan does. He does a great job on pretty much anybody that he marks. And yeah, for me, pop forward throughout the year as well. Did the trademark outside the left boot over the bar. So for me, Tom O'Sullivan in there at left cornerback. Now, the halfback line was probably one of the most difficult lines to do in the team. And as always with this, I'm going to, give shout outs to the people that didn't make it. So Gavin White, Lee Gannon, and Tig Morley all don't make it for me. It's just, that sounds ridiculous to say, but Gavin White, fantastic. Lee Gannon, brilliant. And Tig Morley, particularly in the final when he marked Conor O'Callaghan, was fantastic. Morley's a big one to miss out on, but the one I feel most guilty about leaving out is Carl O'Connell from Monaghan. I think he was just magnificent. And you look at not only did he make big impacts in the quarterfinal against Armagh, but when the chips were down for Monaghan, particularly in the Derry game in the Ulster Championship, Carl O'Connell never stopped performing brilliantly. The only thing that makes me shade it to other people is he was quiet in the semi-final against Dublin for long periods. I think that was his time to shine. He didn't necessarily get it. So I think it's harsh, and but I feel really guilty about not putting O'Connell in. But the three I've gone for James McCarthy from Dublin, Gareth McKinless from Derry, and Conor McCarthy from Monaghan, a left half-back. So we'll start with James McCarthy. Look, 9 All-Irelands, one of the immortals, All-Ireland winning captain 2023, in my opinion, right up there with Stephen Cluxton as Dublin's best ever player. This guy is just an absolute colossus, and I don't think we'll find another one as good as him at right half-back for a long, long time. Just an outstanding player. Going forward, he's a leader, he's a warrior, and definitely a candidate for Footballer of the Year, no doubt. It's a really, really hard one to say who actually deserves Footballer of the Year, because he didn't have his greatest performance in the final. He continued to warrior through, but I would probably still think that he is absolutely worthy of being up there on the podium. But what a defender this guy is. What a leader, what a legend he is. Gareth McKinless then at centre half back, I thought for Derry, he was fantastic. Absolute pitbull at the back there for Derry. He is the first type of defender you'd want in your team. He's willing to put his head in where you wouldn't put a crowbar in. And the goal that he got against Kerry really set Derry up to give them a right good test, and he was inches away from sticking another one in the back of the net, and that would have put Derry in the All-Ireland final. He was magnificent in all of their games, and he is a crucial cog in that Derry machine. He has it locked down at centre half back for Derry for however long as he wants it. Same with Owen McAvoy. Now, moving across the left half back, Conor McCarthy from Monaghan. Fantastic year for this guy. Completely reinvented himself. He was, before this year, he was a corner forward or a wing forward that would be amazing one day and quiet the next. But this season, he kept his form magnificently. And from left half back, he had such an impact on the championship for Monaghan again, which is what I was talking about. He kicked the winner against Kildare to put Monaghan in the All-Ireland quarter-finals. He was magnificent in the group stage games. He was brilliant in the Ulster Championship. He was just such a constant threat for every team, and he had a good game against Dublin in the All-Ireland semi-final. So I'm going to go with Conor McCarthy at left half-back. Now, midfield, again, I'll go through the names that did not make the cut here. They are Diarmuid O'Connor from Kerry, Darren Hughes from Monaghan, and Brian Howard from Dublin did not make the cut. Now, I feel guilty leaving out Darren Hughes because I just thought he was heroic against Dublin. I just thought he was literally willing to go out on a shield. Like, he was giving everything he had in the tank to try and get that victory. So unlucky that it just wouldn't fall for them on the day. Along with that, Diarmuid O'Connor from Kerry, great year, particularly in the All-Ireland quarterfinal against Tyrone. I thought he was brilliant, and he came up against two magnificent midfield pairings back-to-back. He came up against Kilpatrick and Kennedy from Tyrone, did very well. Came up against Conor Glass and Brendan Rodgers from Derry, did very well again. And I thought I had him in my All-Star team coming into this game, but Fenton's performance just tipped it for me. But great year from Kerry's Diarmuid O'Connor. And the last one then, Brian Howard from Dublin. Very underrated, Brian Howard. It's like he is a good player. Everybody knows that, but he is so good. And people don't give him the credit for just how good he is and how crucial he was to Dublin's system in that All-Ireland final. Every time that Dublin needed to take a quick kick out, it was always Brian Howard that they went to. Anytime they needed to slow the game down, it was always Brian Howard that they went to. He is crucial in the Dublin machine, and I think he definitely deserves a shout-out. But I've gone with Brian Fenton from Dublin and Brendan Rodgers from Derry as my midfield pairing. Brian Fenton, magnificent. And this is, again, when I'm talking about influence. Brian Fenton saved his best performances for the last 3 games. He was unbelievable in the second half against Mayo. He was unbelievable in the crunch moments against Monaghan. And against Kerry, he was a colossus in midfield. And it's like, that's what champions do. They turn up when it matters, and Brian Fenton turned up when it mattered, and he was leading the charge against Kerry when it was really, really on the line. And beside him, Brendan Rodgers, again, exact same thing I can say about him. He turned up when it really, really mattered. And Brendan Rodgers was just awesome. You think about the goal that he got against Armagh, he was constantly the one that no matter what for Derry, he was always doing this thing. He was always leading the charge. And against Kerry, he was heroic in the semi-final. Heroic in defeat, but heroic all the same. And for me, Brendan Rodgers, actually, you could argue, is one of the first players you should have in this team. Brendan Rodgers, for me, no doubt, in there at midfield in this all-star team. Now moving into the half-forward line. And these are two players that I think deserve a shout-out for this half-forward line. So first one, and they are a bit left field, but just hear me out on it. Enda Smith from Roscommon and Ronan O'Toole from Westmeath. I just thought that both of them had great years in the championship. Ronan O'Toole is playing with a Westmeath team, for example, that was expected to be annihilated in every game that they played in the group stage. And Ronan O'Toole's performances were crucial in Westmeath being able to compete with Armagh. Should have beaten Tyrone. That was all Ronan O'Toole, or a lot of it was Ronan O'Toole. His performances in that game were magnificent. I'm not putting him in because it didn't matter anyway. Westmeath didn't get a victory, but I think he does deserve a shout anyway. Now, Enda Smith as well. 3 Man of the Match awards. Just a magnificent year from him. He was actually put in the Sunday Sport Team of the Year. It's definitely a good shout. I think he had a fantastic year, Enda Smith. It's genuinely some of the best football I've seen him play. I thought he was brilliant. He always clutches up for Roscommon when they need him to, and I think he definitely deserves a shout there at left half forward, potentially. Now, the 3 that I went with, though, I went with Paddy Clifford from Kerry, Sean O'Shea from Kerry, and Paul Mannion from Dublin as my half-forward line. Now, starting with Paddy Clifford, particularly in the All-Ireland final, this guy clutched up multiple times. I thought he was brilliant. And it's just that he is that good, and he strings everything together for Kerry, and he's very much the guy who's the link between defence and attack. The engine he has is unbelievable. He's up and down all over the place. He showed a bit of a scrapper in him this year as well. He was in it with Conor Myler in the quarterfinal. He was in it with McCluskey. And yeah, it's just he's an absolute warrior for Kerry, and he emptied himself into that All-Ireland final, and he definitely deserves to be in there right half forward. Centre half forward, then I've gone with Sean O'Shea from Kerry. I thought, again, very good year from Sean O'Shea. He is just Kerry's centre forward, isn't he? He has that position locked down for as long as he wants it. And the goal he got against Tyrone, that really put the knife in Tyrone. That finished them off. He was fantastic against Derry at crucial stages. And he had a good game, particularly in the first half against Dublin in the All-Ireland final. Quietened a bit in the second half, but still, for me, did enough to be in this team of the year. And left half forward, Paul Mannion. I think The major bit is that his All-Ireland final performance. Like, it's potentially a bit recency bias, to be honest, but at the same time, as my criteria stated at the start of the video, he made a huge impact on where the All-Ireland went. He scored 5 points in the All-Ireland final, 4 of them from play. And it wasn't even that, it was the timing that he got them. He got the point which put Dublin ahead going into added time. That gave Dublin a huge advantage when it came to playing out the last few moments. He clutched up time and time again in that All-Ireland final and won man of the match in the final, and deservedly so. I thought he was brilliant. And for me, he goes in there left half forward. Now, coming to our full forward line. So again, I'm just going to run through the people that didn't make it, give my respects to the wonderful years that they had, and then I'm going to give my full forward line. And then the recap of the team to anyone that has just joined us. So the people that didn't make it, that I feel guilty that not putting them in: Cormac Costello from Dublin, Dara Canavan from Tyrone, and Conor McManus from Monaghan. They didn't make it for me. But wow, what a year all three of them had. Starting with Cormac Costello, as I said, coming into the final, he had a 100% shot conversion rate, was absolutely brilliant against Monaghan in the All-Ireland semi-final, and he led the way for Dublin at a time when other people weren't performing. Thought another player that I'm actually going to give a shout out to, Con O'Callaghan from Dublin. Great year from Con again. More of a workhorse type year. He's more willing now to do the dirty work that other people weren't too happy to do. Con couldn't be happier to do it, and I think that's the selflessness that makes this Dublin team special. Anyway, now moving away from Costello on to Dara Canavan from Tyrone. Now, a lot of people immediately forget just how good Dara Canavan was this year. In the Ulster Championship this season against Monaghan in the first half, Dara Canavan lit the place up. He was unbelievable, and he absolutely deserves a shout. In every game this season, Dara Canavan played really, really well, apart from the Kerry one. He didn't play too well in the Kerry game, was kept relatively quiet by Tom O'Sullivan, but Canavan definitely deserves a shout for all the performances he put in this year. And the scary thing about him is he is only going to get better. Like, he is only going to get better. He's going to get better and better and better. And that's a frightening thought, to be honest. So Canavan definitely deserves a shout. And Conor McManus, what a legend this guy is from Monaghan. Fantastic year from him. Vinnie Corey, I thought, managed him really, really well, and then put him in for the full 70 minutes against Dublin. And my God, did he lead from the front. And look, there's a lot of talk about whether or not he'll retire. Look, if that's his final performance, no better way to leave. Like, he proved he is the king, and then he walked out the door. If he walks out the door after that, he's left as the king. And like, look, fantastic performance by Conor McManus in that All-Ireland semi-final. And you know, what a great display. What a great footballer. And like, he led the charge against Dublin for so long. His brain, his IQ for the GAA is just unbelievable. But my full forward line that I've gone with Colin Pascal, Shane McGuigan, and David Clifford. That is the full forward line I've gone with. Let's start with Colin Pascal from Dublin. 2-2 in the All-Ireland quarter-final against Mayo. Outstanding display. Top scorer in the championship from play. He set up the goal for Paddy Small, the crucial score for Dublin. And not only that, but he also kicked over a few crucial points himself to keep Dublin in the game when Kerry had gone 3 points ahead. Thought Pascal had the year this year where he showed the type of football that we always knew he was capable of. And I think he can hold his head high. He goes in for me, no doubt about it. Full forward then, Shane McGuigan from Derry. Awesome year from Shane McGuigan. This fella is one of the best forwards in the business. Constantly clutched up throughout the year. And like, you look at the Ulster final against Armagh, he was the guy who was bringing Derry closer with Brendan Rodgers constantly. Them two were dragging Derry back into the game, and he landed that free to send the game to extra time. Just outstanding display from Shane McGuigan, and I think he absolutely deserves to go in there at full forward. Got a very rough time against Kerry and showed that he's a fighter. He did not give up. He kept going until the final minute of the game. And then left corner forward, David Clifford. Fantastic year again from David Clifford. You look at his performance in the All-Ireland semi-final against Derry, just destroyed Chrissy McCaig. He was quiet in the final. He did have an off day, but he still deserves to go in. And I thought Paddy Hampsey actually did a great job on him as well. But you look at his performance in the Clare game. You look at his performance in the Derry game. You look at how good he's been throughout the entire year, especially considering what he's been through this year, as well as that with his brother Paddy, what they've been through this year, and to still play to the level that they've played to. They have nothing but my utmost respect. And I think both of them go in, and David goes in there at left corner forward. Now, so we have our manager of the year, Vinnie Corey, who gets my player of the year. So I've already chosen my young player of the year. I think that has to be Owen McAvoy from Derry. But let's go with footballer of the year. And this is a really, really difficult one, but I am narrowly going to shade it to James McCarthy from Dublin. And like a lot of people will immediately think surely it should be David Clifford. Look, he was kept quiet enough against Tyrone, and he was having an off day against Dublin in that All-Ireland final. And look, did James McCarthy have his best game in that All-Ireland final? No, he's had better games. But the point is that he was still doing his part. He was still dragging Dublin, even when he wasn't playing well, to victory. As Paul Flynn said in his tweet, like he still was dragging Dublin, kicking and screaming to an All-Ireland. And for me, the year he's had, 9 All-Irelands, I think McCarthy takes it from me, footballer of the year. So, if you have joined us late, this is my team of the year. So I'm going to give the recap of what I selected. So, the An Cluiche Football Team of the Year from 2023. I have it here. Let's go through it. So, in goal there, I've gone with Shane Ryan from Kerry. Fantastic year. That save against McKinless put Kerry in the All-Ireland final for me. Full back line, Conor McCluskey from Derry was magnificent. Mick Fitzsimons, that job he did on David Clifford in the final, outstanding. And then Tom O'Sullivan from Kerry is at left cornerback. Half back line, James McCarthy from Dublin, Gareth McKinless from Derry, and Conor McCarthy from Monaghan. Midfield, Brian Fenton from Dublin and Brendan Rodgers from Derry. Half forward line, Paddy Clifford from Kerry, Sean O'Shea from Kerry, and Paul Mannion from Dublin. And then the full forward line, Colin Pascal from Dublin, Shane McGuigan from Derry, and David Clifford from Kerry. Now, footballer of the year, I've gone with James McCarthy from Dublin, and manager of the year, I've gone with Dessie Farrell of Dublin. Obviously, shout-outs for his manager of the year, Vinnie Corey. Players, obviously shout-outs, you're looking at the likes of Carl O'Connell, Enda Smith, Darren Hughes, Dermot O'Connor. Like, we could go on and on, but that is personally what I think is my team of the year. So, guys, that is the An Cluiche Football Team of the Year for 2023. Thank you so much for giving me your time today. And until the next one, guys, take care.